December 3rd, 2022, Dennis Seatsma, Homestead, Florida, USA. Dennis John Seatsma Video Productions, 94 Astro van. Okay, I was worried about coolant getting into the engine causing hydrostatic lock from an intake manifold leak. I figure the first place water would go if it wasn't mixed with the oil would be to the bottom of the oil filter, and so far I don't see any water here, so I don't know what, but looks like I needed an oil change anyway. I'm gonna finish draining the oil, but these vans have a history of the fuel pump failing in the tank, so best way to check for that is be real quiet. Shh. And you can turn on the fuel. Now I got no oil in the engine, so I can't crank it, but you listen, put your ear, and you listen for the fuel pump. And if the fuel pump, you can't hear it, you check for fuel pressure. And voila, I got 60 psi, and when I turn the key off, it should hold pressure and not go down unless I got a leak. So that's on the VIN-W engine, central multiport fuel injection, or what they call a spider. And I've changed this spider a dozen times. So it looks like I got a good fuel pump, I got good fuel pressure. Now if you don't have any fuel pressure, you can take your test light at the connector here and check with your test light, make sure you're getting 12 volts from the fuel pump relay. Sometimes you get insects in that relay and you can't get the voltage even though when you turn it on. So of course the fuel pump without power can't pump. So, and of course you can always check for replace your fuel filter. But if you look underneath the van on this cross section here, you'll find a connector. That's the wrong connector. Here's the fuel filter there. But there's a connector on the cross member up here. Oh, I got it there somewhere. Okay, that connector goes back to the fuel pump, so you can check for voltage there. And that also has your fuel level from the sending unit, but those wires run back to the fuel tank. And if you got a bad fuel pump, you gotta get the gas out of the tank somehow. The way I do it is I take out the fuel filter and I let it pump out into a gas container by just turning the ignition on and let it pump out. So I get the gas out of the tank, and then I take the straps loose and I drop the tank. Some people put an access plate so they can change that fuel pump without dropping the tank, but I always drop the tank. The last time I've tried different brands of fuel pump, and the one people say bad things about Bosch, but so far, knock on wood, this has been my best fuel pump, was a Bosch electric. And of course I had to change the sending unit in the past, and you can emulate a sender by taking a resistor, and 30 ohms for a full tank and 240 ohms for an empty tank, to see if your gauge is working, and you can emulate that at that connector I'm telling you about. So a bunch of tips real fast in this video segment for a no start condition if you have problems with the fuel pump, and also the way to check your fuel pressure. So far I see absolutely no problem with the spider, which is central multiport fuel injection, or VIN-W, for the first generation of Astro van. This one's a 94. Second generation Astro vans I can't talk about because it's a different system. First generation is OBD1, second generation is OBD2 on the diagnostic and all that. So, and they made a lot of improvements in the second generation, but for some reason people want the first generation vans because they have childhood memories of family trips in them, And this one's pretty clean because this is a Florida van. This has never been outside of, it's been outside of South Florida a few times, but you know, only briefly. A road trip to Grandma's house once or two up in Pennsylvania. So this one's pretty clean underneath, no salt exposure. And it's a Florida van. But they're coming up in price for some reason. I don't know why, but people want these Generation 1 vans, and it's getting harder and harder to get parts for them unless you go to the salvage yard. Anyway, hope you enjoy my video.